Hey guys, how's it going? Vytera here. I cherish The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It served as the foundation for many 3D games to build upon, and it served as one of the bricks that made up my gateway into both the world of Nintendo and video games as a whole. I know I'm not alone in sharing such sentiments either. Many critics and consumers alike hold the game near and dear to their hearts. As such, many find themselves returning to this title quite frequently. While the franchise has certainly evolved over time, continually building upon Ocarina of Time's formula, the game's carefully constructed design allows it to remain a joy to play even in 2020. But over time, players began putting together new ways to experience the game. From the ever-expanding ROM hacking community was born a subculture focused on modifying Ocarina of Time specifically. For example, some ROM hackers put together HD modifications to provide fans with a more clean, high-resolution Hyrule. Some ROM hackers even developed hacks that could be viewed as DLC, such as the popular Zelda's Birthday hack. However, in 2018, a new Ocarina of Time ROM hack took center stage. On May 28, 2018, developer AmazingAmpharos and team pushed version 1.0 of the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Randomizer to the public. Their website presents a clear-cut description of the hack, describing it as one that randomizes the location of items for a more dynamic experience. Now, at the time, this formula was nothing new. Similar ROM hacks, such as the 2016 release The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past Randomizer and the 2017 release Super Metroid Randomizer, implemented this kind of item swapping as well. Nonetheless, AmazingAmpharos stepped into uncharted Ocarina of Time territory to be the first to hack this swapping mechanic into the title. It didn't take long for this ROM hack to explode in popularity. Many YouTubers and Twitch streamers were quick to pick up the hack and demonstrate its ingenuity, uniqueness, and, oftentimes, hilarity to their curious viewers. With all of that being said, today, I'd like to take a closer look into the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Randomizer. Everything I dreamed it'd be. The randomizer's work is immediately made evident upon loading the title screen. While creating your initial save file from the Ocarina of Time's familiar main menu, the randomized background music and menu sound effects give you a nudge on the arm to remind you, hey, this isn't your classic Ocarina of Time. These randomized audio and visuals will follow you throughout your playthrough. If ever you forgot that you were playing the randomized version of this game, the background music will many times unexpectedly demand your attention, reminding you of the chaotic world your Link has been born into. Navi constantly doing this will also have the same effect. The game begins the same way as its vanilla version. You play as young Link, who has just been informed by the friendly fairy Navi that he has been summoned by the Great Deku Tree. However, before you can present yourself to this sage of a tree, you must locate the Kokiri Sword and Deku Shield. Young Link says, been there, done that. However, what sets this randomizer's introduction apart is that it tosses you into this world and leaves you asking the question, where in the world are they? As you're well aware, the locations that compose the Kokiri region of Hyrule, namely Kokiri Forest and the Lost Woods, are home to a good number of treasure chests, side quests, and merchant items. This means that the desired sword and shield could be in any of these item slots. As you start your search, you will begin to understand what makes each randomized playthrough so exciting. The anticipation of discovering what sits in each item slot makes starting each randomizer a thrilling task. For example, many who frequent the randomizer often begin by acquiring the most easily obtainable items in the game, the 4 chests within Mido's house. The contents within could give you a big push forward in your playthrough, or leave you just as helpless as you were starting out. How will you start your playthrough? Will you acquire tools that will ultimately prove essential towards paving your way to Ganon's castle and slaying the Demon King himself? Or will you encounter misfortune as you unlock the treasure chest to reveal nothing more than recovery hearts, blue rupees, or, worse, ice traps? Like this! I pray for your sake that it's not the latter. Unfortunately, the only thing I got from Mido's house was an adult wallet. It doesn't feel like I'm off to a great start. Okay, how about the chest that normally contains the Kokiri Sword? Yeah, this really is not the best start. Thankfully, going to the shop did reveal some important items. Not only do they have the Deku Shield that we need to buy, but they also have the bomb bag and the slingshot, only for... Yeah, this really is not a good start. The bomb bag we could easily afford, but the slingshot? 140 rupees for a slingshot? I feel like this is quite the scam. This does give me the opportunity to mention something unique about the randomizer though. The game always ensures that you're able to acquire what you need based on the items currently available to you. If we want to clear the Deku Tree dungeon, then we will need the slingshot. We know that the slingshot currently sits on the store shelf for a good 140 rupees, and normally, we wouldn't be able to make such a purchase given we're capped out at 99 rupees at the beginning of the game. This is why the randomizer made the adult wallet available for you at the beginning. It's almost all-knowing! That neat fact still doesn't let us escape from the fact that we still have to do some rupee collecting. After purchasing the slingshot, I was once again broke, so I decided to look for the sword first. And now is the time to put our Ocarina of Time knowledge to the test. Using our bomb and slingshot, let's reveal some hidden grottos and clear some side quests. Nope. After around 15 minutes of searching, I finally stumbled upon the sword in question. Sadly, it was sitting within the Sacred Forest Meadows hidden grotto housing the two ferocious wolfos. Having to fight these guys with no sword and no Deku shield and only a slingshot? Youngling says no thanks. But with that, we can now present our newly acquired sword and shield to Mido and begin our first dungeon. Entering the mouth of the Great Deku Tree, we run through the usual motions. We find the typical map and compass and even run into our good friends the Golden Skulltulas. But one thing that's really cool about dungeon exploration is that you can many times discover unexpected items, whether in treasure chests or out in the open. Still useless, but unexpected nonetheless. The dungeon rooms and puzzles are still those that you'd expect, but as a side note, you can adjust the randomizer to include Master Quest dungeon rooms as well. Traveling deeper and deeper into the dungeon, we finally encounter the ancient, powerful witch Trinrova! Dang it! Regardless, upon our encounter with the dreadful parasite, we quickly slay her with our hard-earned equipment. I did spend 45 minutes looking for all this gear after all. After defeating her and attempting to save the Deku Tree from an unfortunate end, he rewards us with... Huh. Well, definitely not what most would expect, but it's still an important step forward. Similar to vanilla Ocarina of Time, the game rewards you for clearing each dungeon with one of the spiritual stones or medallions, the catch being that these are randomized amongst each other as well. Completing one of the child dungeons may, in fact, reward you with a medallion rather than a stone, and completing one of the adult dungeons may reward you with a stone rather than a medallion. These swaps almost always ensure the destruction of the game's logical flow that most Ocarina of Time fans have grown accustomed to, as each of these spiritual items triggers certain flags within the game. And there you have it, our very first randomizer dungeon cleared. I feel like an even better person already. However, before moving on, it should be said that the events that just took place accurately demonstrate the flow of the randomizer and what to expect throughout your playthrough. 1. Identify the location that you would like to reach. In our case, that was the Great Deku Tree. 2. Identify the items that you will need to reach and clear said location. Again, in our case, the Kokiri Sword, the Deku Shield, and the Slingshot. 3. Acquire said items if you do not already have them. And lastly, 4. Clear said location. The randomizer will certainly throw more surprises than this written flow would have you expect, but generally speaking, this will be the flow of your playthrough. That's really all there is to it. With that in mind, I do need to emphasize, an understanding of the game's inner workings will prove to be an immense aid as you work towards clearing your first randomizer playthrough. Jumping from chest to chest may seem easy enough, but there will be times when certain items will only be made available after certain items are acquired or after certain cutscenes. For example, you will need to know that defeating Barnade within Jabu Jabu's belly is not necessarily the requirement to trigger the cutscene where Zelda passes you the Ocarina of Time. Rather, it is the possession of the 3 spiritual stones that will trigger this event. Another example is opening the Door of Time. Contrary to popular belief, you do not need the Ocarina of Time for passage into the chamber housing the Master Sword. Only the Song of Time is required, and if you were to play this song before the Temple of Time pedestal even with just your fairy ocarina, well, you're ready to wield the Blade of Evil's Bane. Now, I'd encourage you not to get too frustrated the first time around. Some of these flags, while seemingly logical in hindsight, might not be immediately apparent to you at first, and that's okay. You are still loved. You will get better at it. Now back to our playthrough. After clearing the first dungeon, we are now free to explore Hyrule. From here on out, there are no more Kokiri children to serve as guardrails or guides to help you determine what items you have to acquire next. You're on your own. Will you begin by taking the usual path to Hyrule Castle Market? Or will you hop into the hidden grottos located along Zora's River? Maybe you'll move over to Kokiri Village and assist the Cuckoo Lady first? Or quite possibly, you'll make a trek to Gerudo Valley to see what lies in store there. You can even use certain well-known tricks to acquire certain items early. I call this the backflip over the Goron fence technique, and while this really should only be performed by professionals willing to break a few bones, we're gonna do it here so that we can acquire that open piece of art on top of the Dongo's Cavern early. Ganondorf may as well be buckling at the knees right now. Yes, you can even acquire songs as items if you've set the randomizer accordingly. At this point, we're jumping from place to place trying to find the key items needed to access the game's main dungeons. This is because ultimately, we'll need the 5 medallions as well as the light arrows in order to defeat Ganondorf. However, I'd recommend not underestimating the amount of locations to visit or the amount of items to acquire. No matter how knowledgeable you may be about Ocarina of Time, keeping track of it all can be an overwhelming task. That's why I recommend using one of the many randomizer trackers available to players. For this playthrough, I'm using the Emo tracker with the Ocarina of Time Randomizer plugin. Not only does it allow me to mark off the locations that I've been to as well as the items that I've already acquired, but it also marks which areas are actually accessible to me given the progress that I've made so far. I'd recommend this handy tool to anyone looking into getting into the Ocarina of Time Randomizer. What the tracker doesn't do is give you hints regarding where to find specific items. Admittedly, even when using the tracker, tracking down specific items can sometimes be a daunting task. Imagine this. You're running around Hyrule hunting down some item that you need to access your next dungeon. However, you feel like you've been to every location possible, all the while trying to avoid certain side quests to the best of your ability. As a side note, there are 2 things that I always try to avoid like the plague: Big Poe hunting and Big Poe hunting. Thankfully, the gossip stones around the land are now actually useful to the player. These stones often give hints as to where specific items are located, without the need for the Mask of Truth. Sometimes, the items mentioned are useless things like blue rupees or recovery hearts, but when a gossip stone decides to lay down some key item information, you may just find yourself looking like this. Furthermore, some gossip stones reveal which areas are worth visiting and which are not. If a gossip stone says that a certain location is on the path of the hero, then you can expect to find a key item needed to complete your run there. On the other hand, if one informs you that plundering a location is a foolish choice, you may want to avoid it as a time-saving precaution. Then you have some that say things like this. Why? Let's be real, while the gameplay of the randomizer is enough to entice an individual to pick it up, really it was the game's silly moments that drew most of us in. I mentioned it before, but if you're not randomizing the cosmetics and audio of the game, you're truly missing out. Sometimes it takes what was meant to be serious and kinda turns it into something a little too jovial. At other times, it takes what was meant to be jovial and turns it into something a little too serious. And then there are moments like this. She's a trumpet. A lot of players even like to randomize the text in the game, an act which can produce some ridiculous scenarios. I don't recommend this setting for randomizer beginners though, especially if it's been a long time since you've played the Ocarina of Time. After watching some streamers play through the game with this setting on, I became very intrigued and turned this setting on during one of my first playthroughs, and quite frankly, I immediately became lost as I needed NPC dialogue to serve as my refresher regarding the location of some items and the requirements for some side quests. Still, these randomized settings make for entertaining content, both for the content creators playing the game and their audiences. The fact that the visuals and music change with every seed makes randomizing them even more entertaining, as you never know what to expect. After running around Hyrule summoning scarecrows, revealing hidden treasure chests, and killing Golden Skulltula, we finally acquire our last spiritual medallion and make our way to Ganon's castle. Aside from the randomized chests and music, there really isn't anything new here. We destroy the seal and ascend the steps, all the while discovering that Ganondorf is actually a big fan of the Song of Storms. After finally confronting the Gerudo King, we run through the usual motions, play tennis, shoot him with the light arrows, and afterwards, descend the collapsing tower with Princess Zelda. Of course, our supposed victory over the king comes crashing down as the terrifying monstrosity known as Ganon well, he's rather tall. Unfitting music aside, Ganon is no match for the pent-up rage induced by this randomizer's decision to force me to collect 50 Golden Skulltulas to acquire the Nocturne of Shadow. Did I mention that I had to acquire 50 Golden Skulltulas just to acquire the Nocturne of Shadow? 'Cause I did. That kind of frustration transforms a man. We pierce him with the Blade of Evil's Bane and let the sages land the final blow upon the King of Evil. What an awful fate. From there, Zelda sends us back to the time from whence we came, and we get to revel in the fact that we just cleared our randomizer playthrough. Regardless of the obstacles the randomizer attempted to throw in our path, no matter how many Golden Skulltulas it required of us, we prevailed. So here we are, that's the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Randomizer. Now, many players enjoy timing themselves so as to see how much time they can shave off with each run, so ultimately that's what I decided to do. Let me go ahead and see how long it took me to beat this. It took 13 hours to beat this. Admittedly, your first playthroughs may take a bit of time as you adjust to the randomizer's style of gameplay. By default, the randomizer is configured to skip all cutscenes and even the animations that follow playing one of the transportation songs on your ocarina, which honestly makes the amount of time I took to complete this an even sadder thing. In conclusion, would I recommend playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Randomizer? Yes, if you've already played the vanilla version. This game was developed with players who have already completed the game in mind. Sure, resources such as the emo tracker indicate where chests and open items can be discovered, but these tools are more meant to supplement an already existing knowledge of the game. Now, my playthrough had its share of exciting moments as well as disappointing moments. In hindsight, I view it as having had numerous seasons. There were the bountiful seasons where I acquired great amounts of invaluable items within short amount of time. There were also seasons of drought where I spent up to a couple of hours searching for the next item that I needed to move forward. I will say that you do have to be patient as you play through the randomizer. You will encounter situations where you really have no idea where to go next, unable to locate the next item that you need. That was certainly true for this playthrough of mine. Nonetheless, randomizers are games that you can improve at, and with each successive playthrough, you find yourself becoming more familiar with the chaos, so to speak. The secrets of the game are etched into your mind, and I'm sure that many will find themselves becoming even greater masters of this over 20-year-old game than they were prior to picking this up. Add on top of that the fact that the randomizer lays plenty of configurations at your disposal, and you truly have an endless amount of ways to play at your fingertips. I know for sure that I'll be returning to the randomized land of Hyrule very soon, and I now have a greater understanding of why streamers especially continue to return to this game even 2 years after its initial release. All in all, the Ocarina of Time Randomizer was an enjoyable and unique experience that I would recommend to any Ocarina of Time veterans out there. Even 2 years after its initial release, I'm still amazed by the ingenuity of this title. And yes, while I know that there are many other ROM hacks out there, this one gave me a new and fresh way to experience a childhood favorite. So those are my thoughts on the Ocarina of Time Randomizer. But have you guys played the game yet? If so, what are your thoughts on the title? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section below. But thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate that you guys took the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed what you saw and you'd like to support the channel, be sure to go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button as well as the bell button to receive notifications of when we will upload a new video next, as well as the like button, as even things like that really do help support the channel. Thank you guys once again. I will see you guys on the next video here on Vytera, but until then, you guys take care. Bye!